welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to show you a Linux OS called Lindows. Lindows with an L. What it is this was made by Linspire, as you can see here, and way back this was a Linux OS for users that wanted to get away from Windows. This OS is actually pretty good. I like it. There's in today's times there are other distros that are more like Windows than this, but if you want something that's old school, turn it on, it is fine. They do not make this anymore. I just downloaded it to test it. I thought it was really cool. I have another video on Linux FX, which is more like Windows 10 than this, but for the time that this was released, this was like, wow, this is really cool. So as you can see, I'm running it in a virtual box. Unfortunately, I could not get it to run on the physical hardware. My testing machines are kind of old, so I did this here, so it might take a little bit. The reason I did this video is there are people who want to migrate from Windows to Linux. And you have to do baby steps because with Linux you have to do a lot more steps. It's not like Windows where you have all the stuff set up, you just plug it in and it works, you just install it and it works. You put stuff in the starter folder and when Windows boots it loads the program. No, you have to create stuff to do that. So you don't want to use a Linux distro or an environment that's that requires a lot of attention. That's why most Linux users use a environment called KDE, which is the basic environment. That's what I use. Then there's something called GNOME, and then there's a text-based, I forgot the name of it, as it is. So as you can see right now, I'm setting it up. And I'm putting in the password, I'm putting in the name, and I always name my test machines test just for show purposes. I just do that so then anybody can use the video for reference. There's no private information going in there, if that's what you're wondering. So it's going to ask me for a confirmation. You click yes. If there's anything wrong, you go back and fix it. And there's nothing wrong here. And since this is a virtual machine, it does take longer to load. Now I like something like this that's old and not made anymore. If you play with it, you can figure out where the new stuff has come from. So it's installing right now. And as you can see, it will take a while. So this, when the desktop, what they call the desktop, the wallpaper and all that, in Linux it's called an environment. Now in Windows, the environment, I'm not sure if I stated this before I keep going in another video, but In Windows, the environment stays the same. It's the options that are different. In Linux, the environment changes. So it might change some things, but that's the nice thing about Windows. Visually, it's the same. It's the stuff behind it that change. The environment changes in Linux. And that is a ripoff of the AOL thing that you see there. Now there's certain programs on here. They're Linux versions of the programs. And some programs that are exclusive to Linux distros. I know I did a video on LibreOffice. I'm not sure if it's still up or not, but LibreOffice, which used to be called OpenOffice.org, was basically Linux version of Microsoft Office, if you really want to get technical with that, even though it has no relation to Microsoft whatsoever. I just want to throw that out there. So with that, it does all the exact same things that Microsoft Office does, but you can, when you install it, or most of the Linux distros come with it, they make a .exe version. I think I mentioned that in the video. And you can install it on Windows as well. But you could set OpenOffice to have Microsoft Office extensions. So if you're using a Linux machine and either your place of learning or a place of employment uses Windows, you know that the files will work. So it should restart here in a couple seconds. Alright, it's restarting. And for me, I like the background. My favorite color is blue, but I like the background and the way they have it. What that was telling me to take the disk out. That's all that was. So I push enter, and now we keep going. And as I stated earlier in the video, this is running on a virtual machine, so it will take a little bit to load. Now, with VirtualBox, there is a Linux version of that as well. If you go on their website, you can find it. Now, with Linux distributions, you can do some really cool stuff. It comes with certain things. People make their own, which I think I stated in another video. I know still as the administrator when I filmed this, it was late at night and I was doing multiple things. You can see me in the video moving around, typing, doing what I gotta do. This is welcome. And you do have to agree to a license. Now, any software, whether it be Linux, Windows, or Apple OS X, you have an agreement. Now, what that agreement means is you're promising the company you will not do certain things with their software. Which means if for some reason you get caught doing those things, and you try to go after the company, it will not happen. That's why when people make their own versions of software, they don't sell it because they can get in a lot of trouble for it. And this is the intro to Lindows. This tells you how to use and do certain things in the OS itself. I like the way they do the user interface on this. It looks futuristic. And I happen to like that sort of thing. And as you can see, I should scroll down. I'm looking at the Windows bottom here. That's not the point. When I scroll down in VirtualBox, you'll see the start button and all that. The way it's laid out does resemble Windows. And as you can see, I am online with it right at this point. It's questioning everything I'm doing. It doesn't help that it's on a virtual machine either. Some Linux distributions, from my experience working with them, if you put it on a virtual machine, it tends to question what you're doing a lot more than on physical hardware. So I'm surfing the web here, and on Lindows, I was trying to go to other sites. Had a little bit of difficulty doing it, but that I'm on a virtual machine, so it doesn't bother me too much. And as you can see down here, it does resemble Windows a little bit down here. If you could see the bottom left-hand corner, different icon, different everything, but the way it's set up is like Windows. Alright, so I'm going through the programs at this point. I believe I go to Office at this point, and I launch the Open Office Writer, which would be basically Microsoft Word in Windows. That was actually, it has all the same stuff. You can change color, do all that. This is a basic Linux distro. It's to help users or anybody who wants to mess with Linux the first time, or if you want to transfer from Windows to Linux, as I stated earlier, you can use this, even though this is really outdated and they're not making it anymore. And I just noticed that it is the 5th version of lindows. Alright, so I opened up the messenger. I have no contacts or anything like that, so I'm just opening it up to show it off. Just trying my luck here and see what I can do with the web browser. So I'm checking out all the programs, just see how they open up and see what they look like, to see what's recognizable to me. Now I open up the Open Office Writer. I thought I did that earlier in the video. Alright, so anyway, that is it for this video.